Historic Lynn is an ongoing series that will take a look at the 24 places in Lynn that are listed in the National Register of Historic Places. To be included in this list means that a location or object has been deemed worthy of preservation. For a property to be eligible for the National Register, it must meet at least one of the 4 National Register main criteria. Number 1, event. Means that the property must make a contribution to the major pattern of American history. Number 2, person. Is associated with significant people of the American past. Number 3, design construction. Concerns the distinctive characteristics of the building by its architecture and construction, including having great artistic value or being the work of a master. Number 4, information potential. Is satisfied if the property has yield or may be likely to yield information important to prehistory or history. On today's installment of Historic Lynn, we look at some of the historic districts and houses that lie within Lynn. Patricia Lee of the Lynn Historical Commission, as well as a longtime teacher within the city, sat down with us to discuss some of the districts and houses.
The Charles Lovejoy House is located at 64 Broad Street. It was built between 1894 and 1895 by James T. Kelly, a Boston architect. Charles Lovejoy was a doctor, and he was the first superintendent of Lynn Hospital. And he gave the house in 1920 to his daughter as a wedding gift.
The Fabens Building is located at 312 to 314 Union Street and was constructed in 1890. At one point, the Fabens housed Harold's Delicatessen and Costello's bookstore in the basement. Today, it is home to a few local businesses.
The Tapley Building, which was located at the corner of Washington and Broad Street. It's one of the buildings that survived the Great Lynn Fire of 1981. Fire jumped right over it. But in the mid-'80s, it ran into hard times, and a company from Salem, ETJ Acquisition Company, took ownership of it. But they couldn't keep tenants. So then the city of Lynn took it over. And they had different plans for it. One, it was going to be the Computer Technology Center for North Shore Community College. But that fell through when they took ownership of the Bell Atlantic Company. So then the Economic Development Industrial Corporation got a grant to make it part of the Arts and Cultural District. But then, before anything could happen, in 1999, it burned to the ground. So the Tapley Building is no more. The Lucian Newhall House is located at 251 Ocean Street. It was constructed in 1866. Lucian Newhall was involved in real estate and also the shoe manufacturing industry in Lynn.
We're going to take a quick break, but stick around because coming up are more of Lynn's historic districts and homes, including Lynn Woods.
Ah, the Earth. Millions of miles away, and only now do I appreciate its splendor.
Yes, it is quite a thing of beauty, isn't it?
Thomas Jefferson, what are you doing here?
I'm just taking a break from watching great programs from LynnCAM TV like Something Healthy to Eat, Cosmos International, The Business Guide and Lynn Police Beat.
How are you breathing?
I have no idea. LynnCAM TV.
Connecting you to your world.
Thank you for watching Historic Lynn. Now we continue our look at Lynn's historic districts and houses.
Lynn Realty Trust Company, Building Number 2, located at 672 to 680 Washington Street. This used to be an industrial building, but today it's an apartment building. The Vamp Building, which is located between 3 and 15 Liberty Square. It once was the largest shoe factory in the world. When I was younger, I remember Robert Hall clothing store being in the basement. That was a men's clothing store, and it was before it moved to Saugus. It no longer is in existence. This is one of the buildings that was severely damaged in the Great Lynn Fire of 1981. They had just remodeled it. They lost the top floor, but the firemen miraculously saved the rest of the building. Today, it's again an apartment building. Mower's Block, located on the corner of Blake Street and Willow Street, was built in 1891 by Edwin Earp. Today, it's an apartment building.
The Monroe Street Historic District is bounded by Market Street, Oxford Street, Washington Street, and the MBTA commuter rail. It was once home to many of the city's finest businesses. On Monroe Street, there was one of the first Filene's stores. It was located in the old Jerry's store before renovations on Monroe Street, which was then known as the Gold Block.
The Diamond Historic District, which encompasses the area of Broad Street, Lewis Street, Ocean Street to the Swampscott line, and Nahant Street. The houses were built between 1860 and 1910 by the very influential shoe factory owners. Very wealthy upper class area. Today, most of them have been made into apartments or condos. Some of them, though, still do have one family living in them. There's also a bed and breakfast in that area. The backyards used to go down to the beach. There was no Lynshore Drive until the early 1900s. Some famous people that lived in the area: the founder of Christian Science, Mary Baker Eddy, and the abolitionist, Abby Kelly Foster.
Now we are going to take a short break, but stay tuned, because up next is the Lynn Woods Historic District. The last historic district on this episode of Historic Lynn is Lynn Woods. Roughly bounded by Lynnfield Street, Bow Ridge, Great Woods Road, Parkland Ave, Walnut Street, and the Saugus Line. Lynn Woods is one of the largest municipal parks in the United States, with roughly 3,000 acres of land. It has over 30 miles of scenic trails and 3 active reservoirs, which provide Lynn with its drinking water. The woods comprises 13% of the area of Lynn. The Park Commission controls 1,000 acres, and the Water and Sewer Commission controls 1,200 acres. Attractions within the woods include the amphitheater, Dungeon Rock, Stone Tower, Breed's Pond, Walden Pond, and the Wolf Pits. We were able to sit down with the park ranger for Lynn Woods, who gave us some insight into the park.
Hey, my name is Dan Small. I'm the ranger in Lynn Woods. I've been working here since June of 2000. My job comes under the Water and Sewer Commission, and I take care of the place. I do the maintenance. I make it easier for the guests to enjoy, and I try to make it a good experience for everybody. Primarily what I do up here is I take care of it as far as keeping the trails open, keeping the trash picked up, organizing volunteer events, and trying to run events like Dungeon Rock Day and some of the other things like that we do. As far as the Lynn Woods, it's been a great experience working here. The park itself has existed since about 1880 when a bunch of concerned people in Lynn got together and decided they wanted to preserve part of the woods. To do so, they used their own money and they raised some, and they bought an area of about 200 acres. They called it the Free Public Forest, and it was going to be a park that was open for everybody to use. In 1890, the state of Massachusetts, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, passed the Park Act, which allowed cities to make their own parks to raise money, sell bonds and whatnot, and all the things you need to raise the money to have a park. Lynn decided to participate, and that started the whole movement. Over the next 20 years or so, they accumulated considerable amounts of land, eventually topping out at about 2,300 acres, which is about the size of the park that we have today. Lynn Woods was added to the National Register of Historic Places on September 6, 1996. Yeah, there's been considerable debate over the years about whether or not the Lynn Woods is the second largest municipal park in the country. That name was tagged onto it some time ago, and I constantly get asked about that. The unfortunate reality of the thing is that it is not any longer. That quote came from the mayor's address to City Council, I believe, in 1890. At that time, it was the second largest park, only to Fairmount Park in Philadelphia. Since then, especially in the western part of the country, there have been a considerable number of larger parks made. As far as I know, Lynn Woods is probably now about the 23rd or 24th largest municipal park in the country. It is a good-sized chunk of land. It's way bigger than Central Park in New York, which is kind of a nice thing. We take some pride in that. Also, it's on the bigger side. It's bigger than all of the MDC parks in the immediate area. It's not quite as large as Dogtown up in Gloucester, and it's smaller than the Blue Hills. The actual area of Lynn Woods now is 2,300 acres that the city of Lynn owns, and there's about 700 more acres attached to it that belong to various entities, Essex County Greenbelt, Conservation Land in Saugus and Lynnfield, and it brings the total to about 3,000 acres. So it's a very large chunk of woodland to have in an area like this. I believe the largest single distance you could walk in here would be about 2 miles before coming out the other side, so it's a good-sized piece of land. Yeah, as far as actual attractions in this property, there aren't a whole lot of things that were built. They were very careful about trying not to overbuild it, to let it be a natural woodland, which is something that it was special about. It's a unique property because it is a natural woodland. We don't have tennis courts, we don't have anything like that. What is here is the old stone tower. It was built by the WPA 1935 to 1937. It's a stone watchtower, never really served any purpose except just a destination to hike to and a thing to climb. The tower had fallen into some disrepair over the last couple of decades, and very nicely, about 5 years ago, a movement was started to rebuild the tower. Some fundraising occurred. We had a very large donation from the Richardson family, and last summer we were able to reopen the tower for the first time, I think, in about 30 years. It's been a great experience. It's a great place to go and a great view from the top. You can see everything. The tower actually sits on the top of the highest point in Lynn, about 283 feet above sea level, I believe. The other big attraction in here would be Dungeon Rock. It's a site in the 1800s. Some individuals thought that they had information that there was treasure buried there. They were spiritualists. They were supposedly communicating with a ghost of a long-lost dead pirate, and they were going to dig the area up and find the treasure. Over the 30 years following that, they managed to dig a tunnel 174 feet into the ground. Pretty much spent their lifetime and all their money doing it, and they never found a thing. Very nicely now we have this site. It's a great place to go visit. It's a great place for kids. And you can go all the way down to the bottom and really see the place and enjoy the whole ghost pirate experience. Other than that, there's really not a whole lot else in here. There's some old wolf traps from the 17th century that still exist in the ox pasture area. There's some old pasture walls from the days of the public grazing land, but that's about all that actually exists in the park that you can see. That is not of natural origin. Okay, as far as natural things, obviously we have a very large forest here. It's a pine oak forest. It has all the things you would expect to find, the sweet fern and the blueberries and obviously pines and oaks and all of that. We have some very large swamps in here, which can be an interesting place to see wildflowers. A lot of mushrooms. Mushroom picking is actually very popular up here with those who know what they're doing. We have edible species. We also have lots of poisonous ones, so it's a good idea to have a good idea what you're doing before you enter into that. As far as the animals that are in here, we have everything you would expect to find in this type of forest with the exception of rabbits. For some reason there are no rabbits in here. Maybe there's too many predators. Maybe they were taken out by hunting and just hadn't returned. But pretty much we have deer, coyotes, fox, raccoons, possums, skunks, all those kind of things you'd expect. And then squirrels, flying squirrels, red squirrels, all the way down through a variety of snakes, including rattlesnakes, which do live in here. I have not seen one, but they've been documented. And then a variety of birds from great horned owls down to migrating warblers. It's a great place for bird watching too. Yeah, the bear question comes up from time to time. There was a bear that was documented in Linfield a couple of years ago. They had pictures of him. Bears can cover a lot of distance. There's really no reason why we wouldn't expect to have one come through here, but I don't think there's enough here to keep him. If we do have a bear in here, he's going to come through during the blueberry season and he's going to keep on going. It won't stay. I don't think there's enough to keep him happy and food-wise. There's probably bobcats in here. It's the right kind of environment, but I have not seen one. No one else I know of has seen one, but you really don't see them. They tend to move around on their own and they're very stealthy. Yeah, as far as recreational opportunities, the number one use of the place right now is probably for dog walking. It used to be mountain biking. Mountain biking is still hugely popular in here, especially on the north side of the park up toward Linfield, where it's very rocky and there's a lot of ledges and cliffs. Mountain biking is open from April 15th until the end of December. After that, it's the mud season, and we'd rather you stayed out of here. Dog walking, of course, your dog has to be on a leash, but that's been a very popular activity, and there's lots of places to hike. We have 40 miles of trails, so if you just want to go out and hike around, you want to be alone, it's a great place for some solitude. I mentioned a little bit earlier that mushroom picking is big here. Those who know how to do that, it's a great spot for that. There's a lot of down wood and things that will grow a good crop of mushrooms. Other activities, if scout groups come up, it's good for that sort of a thing. It's a very popular spot to run. Some people running for fitness, and also on Wednesday nights during the warmer part of the year. I believe it's the summer with about a month on each end. They have races coming out of the Great Woods parking lot, where I believe they run about 15K, and that has gotten hugely popular. It went from about 40 people attending 20 years ago to now they get usually about 200 and sometimes more. Friends of Lynn Woods are a group that was founded in the early 1990s to help protect and promote the use of the woods. In the early days, they did do a lot of work with trying to get the woods to get supported. They were the ones that pushed to have the ranger brought on, to have somebody that actually worked here, whose responsibility would be to take care of the place. A lot of those goals have been accomplished, so now the Friends are more probably involved with matters of fundraising. They were heavily involved in fundraising for the Stone Tower renovations. They helped pay for a lot of the maintenance of the park and a lot of the new signs and things like that that you might see, paint jobs. They also helped to run some of the events to help promote the park and get more people to come up here. So actually it's kind of almost an auxiliary ranger operation that also helps with the fundraising and handles the funds after they're raised. The Lynn Woods had a little bit of a tough history. It still has a little bit of a bad reputation. It's not deserved anymore. There are a lot of people in Lynn that I hear from regularly that would like to come up here. They're a little bit nervous about it. They're aware of the problems that occurred in the 70s and 80s. I have to tell you that's all gone. It's a very nice place now. It's a fun family place. We get people up here with their families all the time. There's never any incidents. It's an excellent place to come. It's a perfectly safe place to come with your kids. I think that would probably be the number one problem we have, is just an image problem, and the number one way to cure that is for people to come up and see the place and see what we have. Enjoy the wildlife. You won't get lost. The trails are very well marked. We have an excellent map that's available at the park, and you can have a great time up here. As far as organized events that are held up here in the woods, I did mention that they had the Wednesday night races. Also, during the summer, usually about mid-July, on a Saturday, we run our Kids' Day Festival, which is kind of like a giant block party where you can come up and there's pony rides and there's spray pools running, and we have a lot of games, water balloon tosses and those sort of a thing, just to give the kids something to do in the summer. It's a free event and it's always a good time. That's a very popular one. We also run our biggest event of the year in October, usually in the beginning of October, which is Dungeon Rock Day. It's sort of a pirate festival that's tied in with the idea of Dungeon Rock. I get maybe 50 people to dress up as pirates, and we lead tours through the woods, and you get to interact with the pirates. It's a great event for younger kids. It's not a haunted house. It's aimed at 4 through probably 9-year-olds, and it has become hugely popular. It's a very successful event, usually right around Columbus Day. As far as other events, in March, early March, I'll run a nighttime owl walk where we'll go out and we'll try to find owls. I have an owl call. We'll see if we can call some in and see. We've had pretty good luck with that one too. That's about all the organized activities I actually run up here. There'll be some general hikes usually run by the Friends of Lynn Woods. And they vary in times, but usually in the fall. As far as information on the park, if you'd like to come up and see us or if you want more information, the Friends of Lynn Woods have a website, flw.org, which has a lot of background information on it. They also have a Facebook page, which is probably the best place to get current information on programming and events that are coming up. If you'd like to contact me directly, my email address is lynnwoodsranger@aol.com, and the phone number at the park is 781-477-7123.
We still have a lot of places in Lynn to visit that are listed on the National Register of Historic Places. We have several more episodes of Historic Lynn left to cover them all. Keep an eye out on www.LynnCAMTV.com for updates on this ongoing series as well as for airtimes. Also, make sure to visit www.blip.tv/LynnCAMTV and www.youtube.com/LynnCAMTV for this and other great programs from LynnCAM TV. Available anytime for your viewing pleasure.